Preface to the updated and expanded edition. Authors usually prize the opportunity to release another edition of their work. Much like teachers updating a syllabus, as I did when I was still a professor, we take such opportunities to freshen up some of our old stories and introduce a new group of readers to our ideas. We also get a chance to tidy up some of our errors. I feel some of that enthusiasm offering this edition of The Death of Expertise to you now, whether you're encountering the book for the first time or revisiting it after the first edition. But I also felt some unease in reopening The Death of Expertise because I realized that as dark a picture as I painted several years ago, I underestimated the intensity and breadth of the many assaults on knowledge. Although I am reluctant to admit it, I'm at heart an optimist. I was far too trusting about whether a crisis might bring those attacks to an end. When I wrote the first edition, and then when I would go on the road to discuss the book, I made clear that I believed that a war, an economic downturn, or even, yes, a pandemic, might be the moment that snaps the public back to its senses. I was distinctly wrong on all three of these possibilities. We have now suffered through a pandemic that was brought under control with vaccines developed in record time. In Europe, the largest war since the Nazis went on the march in the early 20th century continues, as of this writing, without respite or mercy. So far, however, adept international diplomacy has prevented the disaster of a global conflict. The economic collapse that so many feared would follow the pandemic did not come to pass. The United States is, at least for now, experiencing a period of relative economic stability, with slow growth but both inflation and unemployment mostly under control. And yet, ordinary citizens refuse to believe that experts and sensible policymakers had much of a hand in any of these remarkable outcomes. Indeed, they refuse to believe that such outcomes have even happened at all. Many citizens think the vaccines are dangerous, that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is the West's fault, and that the economy is, as always, terrible. The 21st century crisis around expertise, which should have been alleviated by these trials, has somehow gotten worse. The sour distrust of almost everyone and everything around us is rooted in the same sullen narcissism, the same willful rejection of any reality that conflicts with our deeply held beliefs, that underlies the continuing attacks on knowledge. The first version of The Death of Expertise came from a blog post and then an article I wrote in late 2013. Even a decade ago, however, I suspected that I was writing about something else in addition to the problem of knowledge. The attacks on expertise were really the first indications of a global, anti-democratic, populist movement built on rejection of all institutions and the dreaded elites who ostensibly run them.